Hey everybody, Shane here, Shoebox Legends. Thanks for stopping by the channel, and we'll see if my voice holds out today for the fourth and final installment of my top 100 cards countdown. If you've missed any of the prior three, of course, you can scroll back in my channel history, find those videos fairly easily if you'd like to get caught up before we dig into the final 25. But this video is going to be long enough as it is, so let's get right down to it. Card number 25, and this is one that if I were ranking them based on monetary value would be much higher. It's probably one of my more valuable baseball cards, but this countdown is just about my appreciation for these cards and how they fit into my collection. And as such, this one's ranked probably a little bit lower than many of you would like to see it. It's the 1953 Topps Willie Mays. And, you know, I don't mean to sound ungrateful that I own this card. Any card that makes this video is obviously, you know, after 15 to 20 years back in the hobby, if it's within my top 25 cards, it's obviously a card that I have a tremendous amount of love for. This is likely the earliest Willie Mays that I'll ever own. It's my favorite set of all time. I love 1953 Topps, and we'll see at least one more of them in today's video as we make it through the top 25. But this Willie Mays is gorgeous. I love that it's one of the few action shots. There are a lot of portraits in the 53 release, which I like as well, but I really, really dig this card. Great, great piece of cardboard from early in Willie's career. The man who, according to many, and I may even agree with this, might be the best baseball player of all time. And just a really clean copy. Here's a look at the back. It has this silly, came with this PWCC eye appeal tag, which means really nothing to me, but since that sticker's in the way, I just wanted to explain it. But yeah, just honored to have this. I respect Willie so much, and I'm learning to respect him even more as I focus this calendar year on the Negro Leagues and bridge players like Willie. So great card there at slot 25. In at number 24 is one I've shown recently. It's a hockey card, and it's an autograph, a dual autograph featuring two of the best ever to lace up skates. Both of these gentlemen, Bobby Hull on the left and Gordie Howe on the right, are no longer with us. So that makes this autograph, a dual autograph, even cooler. On top of that, I love Upper Deck masterpieces, that canvas feel that this set comes from. I don't know if you can really make that out on video, but awesome release from Upper Deck. And I love the WHA, the World Hockey Association, which was established in the 70s as a challenger and a competitor to the NHL. And these two guys were lured over to the WHA later in their careers, but they were two of the best hockey players of the 20th century period, probably the two best in the game, right up there with Bobby Orr, you know, two of the best three prior to Wayne Gretzky coming onto the scene in 1979. So I'm honored to have this. I can't believe a copy of this signed by both these guys even exists. And when I won it, I was in kind of like a state of disbelief for a long time. And I showed this one recently in a VR, I think, on combo cards, and I had said the same thing at the time. But for those who aren't hockey fans, this is like the equivalent of getting like a Willie Mays, Hank Aaron dual auto. I mean, that's not overstating it at all. That's how significant this card is in terms of hockey history. So number 24, it's that great dual auto. In at number 23, a card that is very affordable. You could go out and score a copy of this today if you're not too fussy on condition for probably $100 or less. It is double printed. It is not rare at all in any way, but I love it. It's the 1958 Topps All-Star Mickey Mantle. Just a glorious vintage baseball card. This screams 1950s golden era of baseball to me. I've told the story before, but as a kid, there was nothing I desired more in terms of the hobby than to get a playing era, a true vintage Mickey Mantle card. And when I got back into the hobby as an adult, maybe 16, 17 years ago, this was the one that I pursued first because it's so affordable. All-star cards typically are less money than the base cards. And on top of that, as I said, this one was double printed, but I love this for so many reasons. It's got that great like Americana feel with that bright red and the stars in the background. Awesome batting pose there. Love the image of the Mick. Just a titan of the hobby. I put him on my hobby Mount Rushmore. And this is, as many know, the first ever Topps All-Star subset in 1958. And so I think this card is significant in terms of its place in the hobby history as well as, you know, the athlete that's depicted on it. So for all of those reasons, I have no problem at all putting this very affordable 1950s card all the way up in slot number 23. And I love this card so much, I've bought it twice in my life. I had this entire All-Star set, all in PSA 6th grade. I sold them all a couple of years ago, and then the first thing I did when I got that money back is buy a nicer copy, better centered and with better visual appeal of the Mickey Mantle. So I don't have all of them anymore. I don't feel the need to have them all, but I sure do love having this mantle. So there you go, card number 23. We're going to stick with, you know, vintage golden era baseball here for number 22. As a Red Sox fan and someone who just admires this guy, I'm still kind of in disbelief that I own this one. It's the 1951 Bowman, Ted Williams. Now, this is, I love this card for so many reasons. Early 50s Bowman, these illustrated cards just speak to me. I really adore these sets, especially 50 through 52, with the same kind of painting style that they used. I prefer this one to the 50 because you get a lot more in frame here with the longer or the elongated card. You get to see a lot more of the splendid splinter. And of course, being a Red Sox fan, living here in New England, this guy is a legend. And in my opinion, the best player ever to play for the team. And yeah, just really, I'm going to sound like a broken record as we advance through today's portion of the countdown. But if you had told my 7-year-old self back in the spring of 1990 that I would one day own this card, I think my head would have quite literally exploded. So there you go, my favorite Ted Williams card. Had to get him into the top 25. All right, down now to number 21. And this is probably one of a few cards in today's countdown that you would not have predicted being here, that you wouldn't see on the average collector's countdown. It's a hockey player that I absolutely love, the one and only Jaromir Jagr. And this is his Upper Deck rookie card. But if you look, it's got this silver stamp on it. This is a 20th anniversary buyback of Jagr's Upper Deck rookie. And this is a man, he's number 2 all-time in points behind Wayne Gretzky. He's the only other player to surpass the 1,900 career points plateau. And he did that despite missing many seasons from playing overseas and player strike and other things like that. So he would have easily been a 2,000-plus point scorer alongside Wayne Gretzky, the only two in history, had he played, you know, even just one more season. He was not that shy of it. And there was a period, you know, mid to late 90s through early 2000s where he was the best player in the game, and he was winning, you know, scoring titles and MVPs, multiple times Stanley Cup winner. And of course, this is a card, just the regular base version of this, you can get for $1. You can go on ComC right now and snatch it up for $1. And if you don't have one and you like hockey, you should pause this video and go buy one right now. But this is a very special version, being the buyback. So these were included in 2010 Upper Deck French edition, and you would only get 1 to 2 per hobby box. And the French product is not printed, I don't think, to the extreme that the standard Upper Deck is. Print runs on these are not known, but I certainly don't think there are more than 20 or so, and it may be that there are more like 10 of these in existence. I've seen one other copy for sale since I've owned this, and I nearly bought that one as well, just because I'm such a believer in this player and this card. He's actually still playing overseas. He's over 50 years old now, and he's still at it. That's the only reason he's not enshrined, is that he's actually still an active player, which was crazy to me. So just a really fun card, an important one in the hobby. 1990 is when the hockey card scene exploded and Upper Deck came onto the scene. And for all those reasons, this one is a very fitting number 21 in the countdown. All right, we're inside the top 20 now. This is a 1940 card here of a Hall of Famer in slot 20. It's the play ball Joe DiMaggio in a PSA 3. I love this card. I really dig that it's a photograph. I would like to get the 41 play ball Joe DiMaggio in my lifetime, just because of the season that it signifies. But I had an opportunity to pick this up years back from the proceeds of selling a soccer card, believe it or not, which is a move I've done numerous times. And I jumped at this at a time when it was way cheaper than it is now. I think it's probably doubled or tripled in value. And I don't say that to brag. I just say that I'm, or I say that to make the point that I'm very grateful that I had the foresight when I had a little bit of extra hobby funds from a sale to go out and make a big purchase like this while I could still afford it, because I likely in today's landscape would not buy this card just due to cost, but I'm honored to have it. And then of course I can never show this one without showing its companion card that I picked up just in the last year or two because I think they look great together. This A and BC Film Stars Marilyn Monroe. So power couple of the 1950s here on matching black and white cards. And this Marilyn Monroe makes me appreciate this Joe DiMaggio even more, if that makes sense. So there you go at number 20. Down to number 19 now. This is a card that I know you would not really see on any other countdowns, especially not this high, but to me, it means the world. I've told the stories before, but I was a youth hockey player growing up in Connecticut, and I was a rabid Hartford Whalers fan. And while the franchise moved away about almost 30 years ago now, sadly, down to Carolina, the new team, the Carolina Hurricanes, they play as the Hartford Whalers a couple games each year. And in recent years, Upper Deck has started releasing some cards of the Hurricanes players in the Whalers uniforms. And there was one that came out over the last calendar year or so that I knew I wanted before I even saw a copy. And it's this card here. This is the Precious Metal Gems green Sebastian Aho in the Whalers uniform. So PMGs obviously are like legendary cards in the hobby, especially modern collectors that collect like 90s and newer. You know what a big deal these are. If you get a Michael Jordan PMG from the 90s, you could probably pay off your mortgage by selling that card. But what attracted me to this one is obvious. I love team color matches. And the way these work is, if you don't know, there are just 100 of these made. They're serial numbered to 100. Here's a look at the back. Whoops. I have here copy 8 of 100. But 90 of the 100 are red, and only the first 10, 1 through 10 of 100 in the serial numbering scheme are green. So when I found out that Upper Deck was releasing this card of Sebastian Aho in a Whalers uniform, I immediately thought there's going to be 10 green PMGs that exist out there. And I need to find one of these cards because it is like the ultimate team color match modern Hartford Whalers card. So I set my sights on this. I set a saved search, and it took me, I think, about 11 months. One copy surfaced where the seller just wanted an unreasonable amount of money, but I waited it out. And this one, of all places, this copy surfaced on ComC. And I took a risk. I deposited a couple $100 in credit to my ComC account. I shot my offer off to the seller, and lo and behold, after 11 months of searching and waiting, I obtained one of the 10 copies of the Hartford Whalers Precious Metal Green Sebastian Aho card. So just the ultimate modern card for a Whalers fan like myself. That was number 19. At number 18 now, we have a classic rookie card. Not many of the cards in the countdown are rookie cards. I think this is only the second one so far today, 13 minutes in, that actually is a rookie. But this is a very important card, and it's the last true rookie in my estimation. I've said that many times, and I've heard others say it as well. And I am referring, of course, to the 1980 Topps Rickey Henderson. Probably the best center fielder, or one of the best center fielders in history, or outfielders in history. The best leadoff man in history, I would say. There's nobody else I would put atop my lineup if I was building an all-time lineup. Rickey was just awesome. He had the personality, the swagger, the skills to back it up. He was a darling of the hobby and one of the best ever to play the game. And of course, the reason I refer to it as the last true rookie card, starting in 1981, you had Fleer and Donruss coming into the equation. So anybody in 1981 or after, when you talk about their rookie card, you have to kind of qualify that. You know, do you mean the Topps rookie or the Fleer rookie or the Upper Deck rookie? But in 1980, Topps was still the only game in town for that final season. And so when you say Rickey Henderson rookie card, this is the card. There's no debate about it. This is what everybody pictures. And this was one of my big pickups a couple years ago. Saved up a few months to be able to pluck down the funds for this. Made some sales as well. And found this in a stunning, well-centered 8.5. And this is a card I would never get rid of. If I had to sell my entire collection and I could keep only 30 or 40 cards, there's no question this one would be included in that group. So the 1980 Topps Rickey Henderson rookie at number 18. All right, number 17. This is a card, you know, I never say never in the hobby, or I don't like absolutes. So I'd rather say things like, I don't usually, or I'm not typically into that, but because I think when you use absolutes, you can miss out on a lot. And the reason I say that, I'm not usually a big relic card collector. They're not really my thing. I kind of think the white relic napkin cards that we get nowadays for players are just boring. Half the time when you look at the language on the back of the cards, they're not from any particular game, event, or season, or they're event worn. However, this card, this relic card, is a mind-blowing card. And I'm still sort of in disbelief that I own it. And it's not even that expensive compared to a lot of what we're looking at today. From the 2007 Upper Deck Sweet Spot Classic release, it's the Classic Memorabilia Lou Gehrig, the Iron Horse, piece of his game-used uniform with a Yankee pinstripe on it. I mean, this is, I say it, I think, every time I show this card, but it feels like something that should be in a museum, not in my own personal sports card collection. And I think Upper Deck with these relics, you know, they did it right in the early to mid 2000s. Just love these cards. And yeah, this is has the right language on the back in terms of certified as having been used in an official Major League Baseball game. So one of my heroes as a kid, read and learned so much about him. He's one of the most admirable figures in the history of the sport. And man, just, I could, on another day, I could probably rank this card in my top 10. I'm not even kidding. That's how much I love this card. So Lou Gehrig, Yankee pinstripe relic at number 17. Moving up now to number 16. This is one of the greatest pack pulls that I've ever had in my life. It was Christmas Eve 2015. Was out at Target picking up some last minute items, and I decided to scoop up a tin of Upper Deck Series 1 hockey because everybody was chasing this card. And sure enough, I opened my first pack out of the tin, and in the very first pack, I pulled a Connor McDavid Young Guns rookie. I never opened another pack of this stuff. Why would I bother? Ever since, I got the one card I would want, and he has turned out to be everything that collectors and speculators and everybody else thought he might be back in 2015. Just a perennial league leader in points. The Oilers are playing some amazing hockey this year as well. They had like a 15-game win streak or something. And once again, he finds himself in contention for a scoring title and an MVP. I think he is the most talented player on ice and has been for a few years now. I think it's going to be a while before he loses that title. And yeah, as far as pulling a card from a pack yourself, it does not get much better than this. Really grateful that I picked up that tin because this would have been a costly little bugger for me to track down on the secondary market as a single. All right, so that was number 17. So let's move now into the top 15. We have another card here that is here for sentimental reasons. It's not that valuable, but I just love it. And it fits nicely after having seen that Lou Gehrig a moment ago. It is the 1982 Topps Baltimore Orioles Future Stars Cal Ripken Jr. rookie card. No disrespect to Bob Bonner and Jeff Schneider, but obviously the man front and center is the reason this card is where it is in the hobby and is where it is in my countdown. And the reason for this, Cal Ripken was one of my 3 favorite players growing up, alongside Will Clark and Nolan Ryan, who we'll see later in today's video. And this is his rookie. And when I was a kid in the early 90s, this was like the pinnacle of my baseball card collection back then. I had a copy of this, which I still have to this day, ungraded copy that I got from a vending box that I received as a birthday gift from my father. And so, you know, a lot of ties there to my childhood, my dad, who got me started in this hobby, my favorite player. And I just think Cal deserves so much respect for the way that he approached the game. In a weird way, I've kind of tried to model myself after guys like Lou Gehrig and Cal Ripken in my own life. Even though I'm not an athlete, professional athlete, I've had the same job for 21 years running now. And I've hardly called out sick. And I just really admire that kind of consistency. And so, yeah, the 1982 Topps Cal Ripken Jr. comes in at number 15 on my countdown. And this is another card, like even in a PSA 9 like this, I bet you can get this for around $100. And if you don't care about condition, I bet you can get this for like 20 bucks or less. So can't miss card from the 1980s. I'd put this right up there with the Rickey Henderson and the 89 Upper Deck Ken Griffey Jr. As some of my favorite cards from the decade, period. All right, number 14 now. We're going to bounce back to hockey. And this is another Young Guns rookie, just like that Connor McDavid that we saw. I did not pull this one from a pack because sadly, I was not collecting back in 2005. It's the Alex Ovechkin Young Guns rookie. Still an unknown if he's going to pass Wayne Gretzky as the all-time leading goal scorer in the history of the league. I think he'll probably get there, and he'll probably play as long as it takes to get there. But regardless, he's already the number 2 goal scorer in NHL history, a league that's been around well over 100 years. He's an exciting, dynamic player, and he's my favorite player in the modern NHL until he retires. I collect the heck out of this guy, and if you're going to collect Alex Ovechkin, his Young Guns rookie card is kind of the gold standard in terms of affordable, and I use that term loosely, but you know, it's not a crazy like one-of-one rookie printing plate from the Cup or something, but you know, cards that are going to cost you, you know, not 5 figures and above, this is the gold standard. So I hope Ovi gets there. I'd like to see him pass Gretzky, but either way, he and Gretzky are going to go down as the 2 best goal scorers in hockey history, and so that card is can't miss. That takes us to number 13 now. Another card that I just absolutely drooled over as a kid, and I'm honored to own as an adult. The 1968 Topps Jerry Koosman Nolan Ryan rookie card. Obviously, Nolan Ryan was my single favorite player when I was a kid, even more than Ripken or anybody else. Fell in love with him collecting the 1990 Topps set, my first baseball set as a 7-year-old in the spring of 1990. And this is a card that I always wanted to own and finally made it happen about 5 or 6 years ago. And just really, really pumped. This is a lowly 2.5. Don't care at all. It's well-centered. And as you've heard probably many times, the 1968 Topps design with that burlap really hides a lot of issues. So this, you know, visually, this presents so well. The colors are sharp. The centering is good. And I don't ever need to upgrade this card. This is my Nolan Ryan rookie, and it will be for the rest of my collecting career. And of course, you know, Jerry Koosman, no slouch either. So really great 1-2 punch for a card that came out 1 year before the Miracle Mets won the World Series in 1969. Okay, card number 12 now. We're into the top dozen, and it's going to be another Mickey Mantle card. We've seen him a few times, including earlier in today's video, but maybe his best card aesthetically. I've heard others say that. The 1956 Topps. There's just so much to love about this. The action shot, the great smile from the Mick. And of course, you know, something that I've really gotten into in recent years is cards that are significant in terms of their place in the history of the actual sport. And when you look at what, you know, Mantle did in 1956, it's easy to fall in love with this card even more. He won the Triple Crown that year, of course, and it's generally agreed that it was the greatest season of his professional career. He even wrote a book where he, you know, where the title of the book was how great of a year 1956 was for Mickey Mantle. So, you know, maybe my favorite Mantle card. Oh, it's my second favorite Mantle card. A little bit of foreshadowing there, but certainly one that's very worthy to have inside my top dozen. Let's take a look at the back here because obviously 50s baseball cards have just such awesome backs. Love the cartoons and the color. This is the gray back. I don't know if I'm crazy enough to try to chase down the white back version of this someday. I'm just happy to have even one of them. And also, this looks pretty darn good for it, too. So I'm really, really pleased with that one. All right, at number 11, card that probably has almost no monetary value, but it has all the sentimental value in the world to me. It's my 1991-92 Pro Set Wayne Gretzky autograph. And of course, you know, I sent this off as a young kid. I was probably 8 or 9 years old. I was a youth hockey player, and I idolized Wayne Gretzky. And so this is, to this day, the one and only TTM that I have ever sent in my career as a collector. I kind of mic dropped it. I went big. I went for Wayne Gretzky. I got a return, and then I never sent another card. My dad swears that this actually came back from Wayne. You know, I was so young at the time, he could have intercepted this out of the mailbox and forged it himself, but I do believe this was signed by Wayne. It does match a lot of his other autos, and it's at a time where he was a much more free signer, especially for a youth hockey player. So, you know, finding this in the mailbox and getting this card back was like my childhood equivalent of finding like the Little Orphan Annie secret decoder ring like Ralphie did, except not followed by a bitter disappointment. Just pure bliss. In a way, this is probably my most special card because, you know, all these other cards in the background are great, but they don't have the personal meaning and the personal touch to me. Being a youth hockey player and sending this card away to my idol at the time and getting it back in the mailbox, it's priceless. There is quite literally not a price that I could put on this card. I'm so grateful that I preserved it throughout my childhood and didn't do something stupid like trade it to a friend or lose it when I was moving as an adult or something. I absolutely cherish it. Reminds me of a more innocent time in my life and growing up with my dad and my brothers. And there's just so much wrapped up into this card that it's hard for me to even explain on video. So there it is, number 11, the Pro Set Wayne Gretzky TTM Auto. All right, down to number 10 now, card that I've shown recently, and a card that I can almost guarantee you wouldn't see in another top 10 because it may be the only one that exists. But I'm a big buyback fan, and it's something I talk about quite a bit on the channel. And this is one of my all-time favorites, and it's, you know, probably never going to be topped for the most part. It's Roberto Clemente's final card from 1973 Topps, the posthumous issue. Of course, he passed away the winter prior. And this is the 2015 Topps original buyback version of the final Clemente. So this is a 73 Topps card, a legit 73 Topps card that was out in the wild for decades. Topps purchased it back, stamped it with this Topps original stamp, and issued it in a pack of 2015 Topps, or maybe more likely 2015 Topps Update Baseball. And to me, the fact that this card has lived kind of two lives, it's been out in the wild and has been pack issued 2 separate times, and is, you know, a haunting and beautiful card of one of the most important personalities in the history of baseball and one of the all-around just best, just good people in baseball history. You know, much like Lou Gehrig, I just admire Roberto Clemente so much, and I'm so absolutely honored to have this very special, one-of-a-kind Roberto Clemente card in my collection. I wouldn't trade this for the world or his rookie card or anything else. It's my favorite Clemente, and I think it always will be. I love that it has the complete career stats on the back, where he ended with exactly 3,000 hits, tragically. This one normally resides in my buyback Frankenset binder, but I sprung it free for today's episode and temporarily housed it in this top loader. So starting off the top 10, the 1973 Topps Roberto Clemente buyback. All right, in at number 9, we have a very important hockey rookie here from the 1985 O-Pee-Chee release. I personally think this is the most important hockey card of the 1980s. It's the Mario Lemieux rookie card. And my buddy Sammy over at SFI Sports Cards did a great video on him recently. And as many of you probably know, he's one of the ultimate what-if questions in the history of sports. Outside of Wayne Gretzky, nobody scored more points per game, I think in both the regular season and the postseason, than Mario Lemieux. This guy was just an incredible presence on the ice, and I think he would have been the second best all-time ahead of Jaromir Jagr on the point total and things like that if he hadn't missed so much time due to health issues and illness and injury. He battled a lot of adversity, you know, just was such an admirable guy, overcame tremendous challenges with his personal health, and he saved the franchise, the Pittsburgh Penguins. They may not even exist as a team today were it not for his intervention and taking over as an owner and returning as a player. And I just admire this guy so much. I gotta try to keep it brief here because we have some more cards to get to, and I see we're already approaching the 30-minute mark, but there will be more coming on Mario Lemieux. I'm planning actually an entire video on Mario in the near future. So you'll see this card again, but for today, I think this is an easy inclusion in my top 10. And as I said, I find it to be the single most important hockey card of the 1980s. So slot number 9, the Mario Lemieux rookie. All right, we're moving into the top 8 now, and these are all just going to be like complete, as the kids would say, bangers from here on out. Number 8, we have the 1953 Topps Jackie Robinson. Just such an important card, and one that is just, the image on this card is ingrained into my memory and has been since I was a kid. Aesthetically, I think it's my personal favorite Jackie Robinson card. I'd love to have someday like a 49 Bowman or some of his other great releases, 52 Topps. But this card, as far as just pure visual appeal, I love it. Now, I always thought as a kid, I'm sure it's a stadium in the background, but I always kind of imagined that this was like a part of the Brooklyn Bridge when I was growing up. And this is a card, there's a little bit of a story here. I owned this card in a PSA 6 for many years. I bought it 12 or maybe even 15 years ago when it was a cheap card, like under $500 for what it is. And only in the last year, I sold that PSA 6 copy and I downgraded to this PSA 4 because I think it looks 100 times better than my 6. So I made a good deal of money selling that 6. I used only a small portion of that money to rebuy this PSA 4 that I'm actually happier with. And then I used the remaining proceeds to fund some really great cards, including probably some of the ones that you've, seen listed out here today. So a lot of memories in terms of me being a kid and desiring this card, and a lot of just ties to the way that I approach the hobby with that downgrade. And I couldn't be happier with this copy here. This will be my for life copy. I love everything about it. And I'm just truly honored to have this card and to be able to display it, alongside the Willie Mays from the same set. So at number 8, the 53 Topps Jackie. And we're going to go ahead and move my sign here so we can make a little bit more room. Coming in at number 7, another one that you're not going to see anywhere else, and a card that we've already seen in a different form earlier in today's countdown. It's my second copy of my Nolan Ryan rookie card. And what makes this one cool is it's a buyback. So this is from the same buyback program, the 2015 Topps Original, as the Roberto Clemente that we saw a few moments ago. And together, they represent my 2 greatest buybacks. Buybacks are something that I've been focusing my collection on for probably a decade now. It's been just about a decade, come to think of it. And these are the best 2 that I've tracked down in all that time. Everything I said about the Ryan rookie a few slots back, obviously, holds true here. But this one is even more special to me, knowing that it was pack issued twice as a buyback and has that history behind it. And again, like the Clemente, is likely the only one that exists. So this one, I bet some of you who are pals of mine predicted that this would be in the top 25 and maybe even had it a little bit higher than number 7. But as it fell this time, as the chips fell, this one came in with 6 cards above it and finishes at number 7. At number 6, another 80s hockey card. This is, I think, the final, oh no, there's one other hockey card in the countdown. So this is the second highest ranked hockey card at number 6. It's the 1986-87 Topps Patrick Waugh. And let me take this out of its outside case here so we can get a better look at it. This is a special card because he's probably, in my opinion, he's the greatest goalie of all time. And this is his rookie card. But what makes this one unbelievably cool, and the reason this is all the way up at number 6 in the countdown as opposed to maybe being like number 50, this is a copy that Patrick Waugh owned himself in his own personal collection. So if we take a look at the flip here, this Patrick Waugh rookie is from the Patrick Waugh collection. So the greatest goalie in the history of hockey, who actually happens to be a sports card and memorabilia collector, this was his own copy of his own rookie card. And, I often compare like catchers and goaltenders because they wear different equipment. They have similar roles in a way in their respective sports. This is like if you got a 1948 Bowman Yogi Berra that Yogi Berra owned in his own collection before deciding to part with it. So when this went up for auction a few years ago, I was more excited about the prospect of owning this card than I had been about probably any other card for years. I figured I would be blown out of the water and my bid would not be even close to enough to win. But to my shock and amazement, I took this card home for a price point that would barely even qualify it for eBay authentication here in 2024. And it might be, you know, the longer that I'm in collecting and the older I get, the more I'm drawn to cards that have something special about them. You know, these cards in the background, like this Ted Williams is great. Obviously, I love it. It's why it's in the top 25, but there's nothing special or unique about that card. If you have the money, you can go out and buy one of those this afternoon. But more and more, I like the interesting, odd, tougher to find items like buybacks or, you know, jerseys with Yankee pinstripes on them. And to me, the Patrick Waugh-owned Patrick Waugh rookie card is like the ultimate pinnacle of that when it comes to my hockey collection. So for all those reasons, I have that one all the way up at number 6. And now we crack into the top 5. And these are probably going to be fairly predictable for friends of mine that have been by the channel with some frequency. But we're going to start with, at number 5, with the card that got everything started for me almost 35 years ago now, the 1990 Topps Nolan Ryan. I had started collecting hockey cards the winter prior in 1989. And so in the spring of 1990, this Topps release was the very first set that I opened packs of. And it's so vivid in my memory, even to this day. And the reason I became a Nolan Ryan fan is because of this set. I was 7 years old. I didn't know anything about baseball, but I learned quickly that this guy was a big deal because the first 5 cards on the checklist were all Nolan Ryan. You had this base card, which was card number 1. So right there, I knew he was a big deal. And then you had the 4-card subset paying tribute to his 5,000 career strikeouts. So this exact card right here, 1990 Topps, number 1, this is what started everything for me. And it's the reason I still love Nolan Ryan to this day. And we've seen numerous Nolan Ryans in this countdown. It's the reason 1990 Topps is my favorite like junk wax era set to this day and always will be. And this copy here, as you may have noticed as I'm gabbing away, is the Archives Signature Series 1-of-1 autograph that came out in 2020, the year that the hobby boomed. So it's kind of a fun token of what was going on in the hobby back then. And again, another example, just like the Patrick Waugh, where there's a factor of like uniqueness here that makes me appreciate this so much more. So the reason this is all the way up at number 5 is, for me personally, this card, you know, it doesn't get much better than this. I think, you know, an average person, if they had this card in their collection, of course they would love this card. It's a Nolan Ryan 1-of-1 autograph. But the reason this is, you know, all the way up at number 5 is just my personal tie to the 1990 Topps set and the fact that that set and this card developed my love of the hobby that exists to this day. And were it not for this card, I probably wouldn't own any of these cards or have this YouTube channel. And so it's really almost impossible for me to state how much that card means to me. Next up at number 4, this is a card, I think this card was actually ranked number 1 the last time that I did this countdown back in 2022. And obviously I still love it. It's, you know, one of the greatest cards of all time, the Hank Aaron rookie card from 1954 Topps. I showed this card in my very first YouTube video. I obtained this copy just before I started my channel and just before he passed. In fact, so close to his passing that when he passed away, this card was in the mail en route to my house. And I just prayed that I would still get it or it wouldn't disappear or the seller wouldn't change their mind, but it showed up. I still get a gigantic grin across my face every single time I look at it. Hank Aaron, just like Mickey Mantle, was like a childhood hero of mine to the point where I read his biography on him when I was in like the 5th or 6th grade. And there's so much to admire about this man. He's a top 10 baseball player of all time, in my estimation, and maybe even a top 5. And yeah, this is his most iconic card. And the reason I picked this up years ago, I kind of went through an exercise. Like if I could buy one card that's actually in my price range, maybe pushing it a little bit, but that I could reach and get and save for across each sport, what would it be? And for baseball, I settled on the Hank Aaron rookie card. And so I went out and got this. I don't think it's really changed too much in price over the last 3 years or so. So, you know, this is a screaming buy and a must-have for like a killer vintage baseball collection. So honored to have that one, even though it slipped from number 1 down to number 4. At number 3, a card that was not in the countdown last time, only because I hadn't shown it yet on YouTube. It's also from the 53 Topps release. We're seeing this one all over the checklist. the Satchel Paige. And this one, you know, I could have possibly even ranked this in the top 2 or even number 1 on a different day, because I just love this player and I love the mystique around him. And it's amazing to me to go through the thought exercise of, you know, could he have been the greatest pitcher of all time? He did not debut in Major League Baseball until he was 42 years old. And when you look at the success that he still had, you know, even at that age and onward, and then you hear all the stories and tales about just how dominating he was prior to that in the Negro Leagues, I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility, or that I'm overstating things at all, to say that he could very well be the greatest pitcher in the history of baseball. And we'll never know for sure, sadly, but I just think there's a tremendous amount of intrigue and mystery around his career, and I love his story. I love this card aesthetically. The portrait is just amazing, and it's another one that I consider myself just so blessed to own a copy of, and it's a stunner. This card, no matter how many cards I add to my collection or how many times I redo this countdown in the future, it's hard for me to imagine a world where this ever falls outside my top 10. It's an absolute dream card, and it's not that expensive relative to some of the other cards we've seen today, because it's not a rookie, but it's his only Topps release. And I just think it's tremendously cool for all those reasons. He has a nice clean back. The last card in the series before the high numbers as well. So this is not a high number card. Those actually start at 221 and above. I've thought in the past about downgrading this to a different copy, but I think this is just going to be my copy for life, even though it's a higher grade than I would ever go after nowadays, because I bought this, again, 12 to 15 years ago. It's just a stunner. Can't recommend enough. If you had $1,000 to spend on just one vintage baseball card, I would go out and get a copy of this and maybe like a PSA 3 or 2 or an SGC 3. I just think it's probably the greatest card that you can buy with high eye appeal for $1,000 or less. All right, we're down to the final 2, 1 hockey and 1 baseball. In the number 2 slot, it's the most iconic hockey card of all time, and it always will be. It's the 1979, in this case, Topps. There's also an O-Pee-Chee version issued up in Canada, Wayne Gretzky rookie card. Number 99 is the greatest player ever to lace up skates. Even if Alex Ovechkin passes him for the career goal total, he's still the greatest player to ever lace up skates. He just won an MVP like every single year for, you know, like his first like 8 or 9 years in the league. Like the most dominating player. He changed the sport forever. He you know, enhanced the popularity of the sport in the US after his trade to the Kings, which had a ripple effect that continues to this day. He's still with us. And yeah, this card is beyond iconic. I don't think there will ever be another hockey card as iconic as this one. And if I could only keep one hockey card my entire collection and I had to get rid of everything else, I would keep a copy of the Wayne Gretzky rookie. So very worthy, number 2 in the countdown, and very worthy of being the highest ranked hockey card in the countdown. And that leaves the number 1 overall favorite card, and you may be able to predict what it is. Hero of my youth, and again, we're going back to my favorite vintage set. It's the 1953 Topps Mickey Mantle. Here's my copy. It's not perfect by any means, but it's perfect for me. That image was burned into my brain as a kid. I know his 51 Bowman is his true rookie, and I know his 52 Topps is more expensive and desirable than this. But for me personally, and my hobby story and my timeline and my nostalgia that I have for this hobby, this is and always will be the greatest Mickey Mantle card. And a big reason for that is, again, as I mentioned, I got into the hobby as a kid back in 1990. And in 1991, Topps issued this Archives 1953 reprint set. And while I never had an authentic, obviously, Mickey Mantle as a, you know, an 8-year-old kid in 1991, I had this card, and the number of hours that I would spend in my childhood bedroom just staring at this card, learning about Mick, reading the back, and, you know, I read books on him, and I was fascinated by Mickey Mantle and fascinated by this exact card. And when I was able to finally acquire an authentic copy of it as an adult years back, it was like a mind-blowing hobby experience. And this is like the top of the mountain for me. There are other nice cards and expensive cards that I would love to own someday. But even if I acquire those, you know, they'll never surpass the 53 Topps Mickey Mantle just because of that nostalgia, that tie to my childhood. And this is the card, the single baseball card that I wanted above any other card throughout my entire childhood run of collecting. And it's just such an important part of hobby history, and a very easy choice for #1 overall in my countdown. So I can't believe I went on for 45 minutes here. I knew it would be a little bit longer covering these last 25 just because they're all so special to me. But I truly appreciate you if you stuck it out with me for this lengthy video, including, or if you watched the first 3 prior to this. I had a blast doing this. It's tremendously challenging trying to rank your cards when you have a collection that's as big as mine is from almost 20 years of being, you know, full-time back in the hobby. But I enjoy the exercise. It's a great excuse to appreciate what I already have instead of always searching for the next thing. And I hope you enjoyed going for the ride along with me. So thank you so much for your time. And I'll be back very soon with some more sports card content. Till then, I hope you all enjoy the hobby. Take care.